So one of the most common questions that arises after being introduced to what is possible with a resource-based economic model is, outside of educational awareness, which we know is crucial to bringing about the necessary value shift, what can people do today to explore sustainable concepts within the monetary system? Unfortunately, many organizations are in development all across the globe who've been inspired to explore efficient design that may function as a transitional model. And while these organizations operate independent of the Zeitgeist movement, we certainly share mutual support for the exploration of sustainable design. And one such organization is called Holigent, and their website is holigent.org. And they're based in Los Angeles and are a think tank organization that embraces the theme, doing the essential most with the least resources. And they are working to create hybrid sustainable village models to experiment with what is possible for the more immediate future. So please welcome Holigent founders, father-daughter team Nicholas and Elisa Frank, to tell their story of how Holigent came to be and what projects they are working on.
All right. Thank you very much, Jen, and thank you everyone for being here. We're very excited to have this opportunity to share our work with you. So my name is Elisa again. This is my father, Nicholas, and we're a father-daughter team. So my dad is going to start off telling a bit about the background of why he came to do this type of work, background of a little bit of his life story, which is very interesting and very inspiring for me. And then after that, I'll give you more of the details of what our actual project is.
I'm going to go back 1930s. My father started this. By training, he was an attorney, but by passion, he was a social thinker, innovator. So I'm a second generation, Elisa is a third generation social thinker, innovator. I lost him when I was 4 years old, but got to know him well through a book manuscript that he left behind. In it was about social evolution, and in it he called for the workers of Europe to unite, sort of an early dream, his early dream of a united Europe. I was born in 1937, Budapest, Hungary. Into the Great Depression, survived Nazism, World War II. At the end of the war, I was 8 years old. This 8-year-old kid came out of the deep underground air raid shelter, looked around, and I saw my beautiful city, Budapest, bombed to rubble. And so the 8-year-old had this question in his head: why would grown-ups destroy so many beautiful buildings and bridges? If you ever seen or been in Budapest, you know what I'm talking about. This question has haunted me for the rest of my life. And it was a great motivator. It's the engine that drives me to do this work. I escaped communist Hungary in 1956, survived the uprising, as some of you remember, lived in Canada for a number of years, and in 1963, I came to Los Angeles. All along, I carried with me this heavy baggage of having born into and grew up in mid-20th century Middle Europe, and all the trouble that I have seen and experienced. And that baggage was full of questions that needed answers. And it got heavy. It has impacted my health. So that in 1972, in a late evening walk, I decided I'm going to do something about that. I'm going to take those questions out of that baggage one at a time, and I'm going to answer them to the best of my ability. And I'm going to do that if it takes the rest of my life. And so 1972, this is 2012, this is the 40th year that I've been doing this, nonstop, it's been an interesting exercise. Kind of fun in a sense, like I look at this as a big puzzle, picking up the pieces and putting them together. It was really an exciting exercise. I divide this 40 years into 3 segments. The first 10 years, roughly, I spent laying the foundation and learning about and experimenting with stress. As it turns out, stress is very important. It is our basic survival mechanism. It's a neuroendocrine mechanism that gets you ready to cope with life. Stress is an important factor in illnesses and disease. As you know, everything from the common cold to heart disease and cancer. But also, stress is a very important factor in human behavior. And very importantly, I was interested in how it impacts the collective behavior. And as it turns out, I came to the conclusion that wars are not the result of failed diplomacy. They are most likely the result of high collective socio-economic stress. And if you go back to 1930s, Europe and Germany, and what that resulted in, you have an idea what I'm talking about. I don't have time to go deeper into the stress issue, still a very important and interesting issue. I'm going to move on to the middle section of this 40 years, roughly 20 years, that when I came to the conclusion that stress is as important as it is, it's not going to answer my big question, which was how life works or how life should really work. And that was a big one. And so after the 10 years, I needed to get out of my little windowless garage office, get some fresh air. So I did something that some of my family thought I was crazy. Packed up my family. Elisa was about 1.5, 2 years old, and her brother, a year or so older. And we took a flight to Amsterdam, and I simply took 1.5 years off, bought a VW camper, hitched to it a trailer home, and we spent 1.5 years traveling through Europe, mainly thinking, reading, writing, and taking very long walks, trying to work out and resolve issues and questions. After that trip, we came back. I was re-energized and wrote a couple of books. One was Biosynergy, What Happens Inside, and Socio-Economic Synergism, What Happens Out There. These 2 books are out of print, don't look for them. But the essence is now all in one book, which is out there, Holigent Solution. I'm going to come back for a moment to the end of this, the synergy period. Synergy was the subject that I was working with in that middle 20 years. It was very promising. As you know, synergy is the thing where the parts, the result is more than the sum of the parts, and that's interesting. However, at the end of that period, I came to the conclusion that even synergy is not going to answer our questions, because the original question of that 8-year-old little kid climbing out of the bomb shelter has grown and multiplied, and of course, the big one that added to the question is sustainability. And I came to the conclusion that even synergy is not going to answer that. It's a big one. I needed a new idea, new concept, philosophy, and an operating system that could possibly answer the issue of sustainability. And so, again, I had to think hard and came up with the concept and the word of Holigent, which is simply from 2 words, holistic, and emergent, the two most important concepts and words of natural evolution. Holigent. And I spent this past 10 years with that issue, and we believe we have thrown this question around, and I invite you to come and examine this. We call it the best idea on earth. If you don't agree with it, come. Let's examine it. If you have a better one, please bring it forward. The human condition on the planet is that the converging issues, big ones, capitalism is failing, democracy is failing, the environment is failing us because we ruined it. In essence, we borrowed from Mother Nature, we borrowed from future generations, and we spent it all, and the bill is coming due soon. We don't have a lot of time. We call this an era of humanity's race against time, and the window of opportunity is getting smaller and smaller. So Holigent, we believe, is a potential solution. Again, I think I'm running out of time. There is a lot of material on our website. The book is there. It condenses everything that I've done in the past 4 years or so. Welcome to it. And of course, our table is right up front there. You're welcome to come and talk to us. And just talk to us anytime and see if we can move us toward real solutions. And with this, I give it to Elisa. She is going to give you a little highlight, again, I think in about 10 minutes or so, of what is Holigent, or the Holigent Solution.
Thank you. So as you can see, my dad has lived a lot, experienced a lot, been a great inspiration to me. And when I finished school, I realized, well, what I'm passionate about, people, the environment, is very much what he's been working on for most of his lifetime. So I joined forces with him, and we founded Holigent.org as a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And our mission is providing an innovative economic and community model to facilitate the transition to economic security, quality of life, and environmental sustainability, a community at a time. So we have both a short-term project from local to the long-term plan to the international and global, and in order to advance that transition from small to larger and larger scale. So I see this as being a stairway, a very practical applied means of getting us from our current broken system to a larger global vision such as the Zeitgeist movement. So you heard my dad mention nature's imperative of doing the essential most with the least of resources. And this is something that we try to build into the foundation of every aspect of the Holigent Solution. So what is the Holigent Solution? It's a concept that has two components. You have this new community model, which aspects are going to seem much familiar to some things that are currently seen. And then we have a new socio-economic model. So the community model, ideally, we're talking about the physical structure and the design for highest efficiency and sustainability. Ideally, it would be a circular community, compact to efficiently utilize vertical space, and it would be pedestrian and car-free, so completely walkable, no cars. Mixed use, having residential spaces and commercial spaces. And this would leave room left over for things like public space, which our current cities in the United States are very much lacking. I work from home, so I'm constantly trying to find somewhere I can go work on this project. And it's very difficult to find somewhere where I don't feel like I have to buy something, or my time there is limited because I'm not buying something. So public space, areas for recreation, green areas, giving possibility for things like ecological restoration, local food production, which I think is very important. And one of the key aspects is this would be non-sprawling. So it could grow to a certain size and then no more. Once it is filled to capacity, it's not able to sprawl any further. Instead, we would, or the community would, assist in the development of similar communities based around this same model. And each one would have a transportation hub. Since they would be car-free, they would have alternate means of transportation, such as light rail, which would connect each community to the surrounding neighborhoods as well as to each other. As you created networks of this type of community model, you could connect them into networks by light rail lines. So residents of this type of community model would live and work in their community. You're building a much stronger sense of community. And this eliminates the long commute, all the stress and the waste that goes along with that, which I know I recently moved back to LA, and the one thing that's so hard for me to get used to is just any time of day, if I have to drive somewhere, I'm stuck in traffic. It almost doesn't matter what time it is. So that's a lot of stress and waste. And an essential component of this community model would be managed by a nonprofit organization. So all the rental income coming from the residential and commercial units would be reinvested into the community and allowing the project or the community to become self-financed. And a lot of this income would go to underwrite the socioeconomic arrangements that the residents would be living with. So this community model is already great, but it's incomplete until you add this socioeconomic model to it. And that pairing is what's so important. So this, the Holigent Socio-Economic model is kind of a hybrid between a capitalistic system and a resource-based economy. In this case, our focus is on human resources. So what this model does is retains the best aspects of capitalism, such as individual creativity and motivation. People would still have their job living in this community, earning money. But in addition, they would agree to a certain amount of required community service within their community. And for that, they would earn credit, which they could apply within where they live towards their rent. So this provides people with a non-monetary means of value exchange that can't be transferred, it can't be corrupted in the way that money is so easily corrupted currently. And this type of agreement would be formalized in a three-way agreement between each resident employee, their employer, and the nonprofit organization managing the community. And so each person would have a lot more flexibility in terms of the time that they devote to their regular job and the time they devote to their community service, depending on economic fluctuations. And this actually has a couple of advantages. It would allow each person to much more readily adapt to fluctuations in the broader economy. So if the broader economy goes into a recession, a lot of people have to work fewer hours, their hours are reduced, their pay might be reduced, and they have no backup system. They're completely dependent on money. The money stops, they can lose their house, they can lose their social support system. So with this arrangement, even if your hours or your wages are reduced, you can instead put more of your time into the community service work, earning more credit, and you still have a means of paying for your rent, your basic needs, and having that security. And another advantage is even if the economy is basically stable, residents would have the option to voluntarily work for lower wages, thereby increasing the business security of their employer and thereby their own job security as well. And the nonprofit management of the community would provide training programs for these community service programs, which would give residents the opportunity to develop and to utilize a much broader set of skills than they would normally be able to in their usually highly specialized workplace. The synthesis of the economic model with the community model provides the physical and the philosophical infrastructure from which the economic, social, and environmental benefits naturally emerge. My dad was talking about synergy, and something emerges from that that's a new quality. And neither one in isolation would have the same benefits. So environmental benefits would include lower carbon footprint, lower emissions and pollution, less demand for resources, and overall smaller impact on the environment because you don't have cars. A lot of things are localized, food production, energy generation, a lot of environmental benefits. Economic benefits would include a lower cost of living and higher economic security. You would already have lower rental rates, no car payment, no car insurance payments, no paying $90 for a tank of gas, and a safety net because of this unique economic arrangement that you would have. Social benefits would include fewer sources of stress and conflict in your everyday life, more time and more opportunities for physical activity, for social interaction, and along with that would come health benefits, increased well-being and social harmony, and an overall higher and secured quality of life. So overall, I think this system promotes also a shift in philosophy from value and wealth equals money and stuff to value and wealth equals quality of life and quality of personal relationships, something that I think is suffering very much today. So each resident would actively be contributing to their community and become a real asset within their community. And over time, as more and more communities transition to this model, these types of benefits would increase with scale. Of course, as others have mentioned, any big vision needs to have a first step, a very tangible, practical first step. So for us, that's what we are calling the Holigent Seed Project. What we are currently doing is looking to buy and renovate an apartment building. And with our team members and volunteers, we would develop it into a small-scale test demo of the Holigent concept. And it would have the potential to grow into a larger demonstration community. It would serve as the home base for our nonprofit. It would provide low-cost housing to team members who wanted to live in it. And additional rental units would provide income, allowing it to, again, become self-financed, which is an important aspect. So again, that's the Holigent concept in a nutshell, and we would love to come talk with you afterwards at our table outside in the lobby. And we're interested in hearing what skills you can contribute or just answering questions. So I'd love to talk with you. And you can also contact us online at our website, holigent.org. Thank you so much for this opportunity.